There is a type of woman who walks through this world and immediately you feel it. Something in your chest tightens. Something ancient stirs. Not because she is trying to get your attention, but because she has stopped seeking anyone's approval entirely. Most men encounter her and feel simultaneously drawn forward and pushed back. Like standing before something sacred you are not sure you are ready to approach. This reaction is not random. It is diagnostic. It reveals exactly where you stand in your own evolution as a man. What you are about to understand is not a strategy for winning her over or tactics for getting past her defenses. This is about becoming the kind of man who naturally aligns with her frequency. The kind of man she does not need to guard herself against. The kind of man she might actually choose. Carl Jung spent decades mapping the architecture of human consciousness. He understood that most people live their entire lives wearing masks, performing roles inherited from family, culture, and trauma. He called the process of removing these masks individuation. The painful work of becoming who you actually are beneath all the conditioning. When a man begins this work, when he starts facing his own shadows and dismantling his inherited programming, he develops the capacity to recognize a woman who has done the same. Before that point, he will encounter her and feel threatened, confused, rejected before he even tries, because she operates at a frequency his unhealed self cannot reach. By the end of this exploration, you will understand why certain women seem impossible to reach, why your usual approaches fail completely, why the qualities you thought were attractive leave her unmoved, and you will see clearly whether you are ready for this level of woman or whether you still have work to do. Both answers are valuable. Only one is comfortable. The first thing you must understand is that she is not playing the games you learned. Every manipulation technique you absorbed from dating advice, every power dynamic you unconsciously inherited from your father or from culture, every test you run to establish control, she sees it instantly. And she does not engage. You might pull back to see if she will chase. She does not. You might create ambiguity to make her seek clarity. She simply assumes you are not serious and moves on. You might withhold affection to measure her investment. She interprets it accurately as emotional unavailability and loses interest immediately. These tactics worked on other women. Women still trapped in their own wounds. Women who mistake anxiety for chemistry. Women who were taught that love requires suffering and that a man's attention, even when inconsistent, is a prize worth fighting for. She is not those women. Jung identified these behavioral patterns as shadow work. The parts of yourself you have not faced now controlling you from the unconscious. When you test her, you are not being strategic. You are being controlled by fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of inadequacy. Fear that if she sees you fully, she will leave. And here is what destroys most men before they begin. She can feel that fear. Not because she is psychic. Because she has faced her own fear and learned to recognize its signature in others. Your nervousness. Your need to control the interaction. Your compulsion to prove your value. She feels all of it. And it tells her everything she needs to know. You are not ready. This is not a judgment. It is simply information. A man still driven by his unhealed wounds cannot access the depth she requires. He mistakes intensity for intimacy. He confuses emotional need for love. He wants her to fill the void inside him that only he can address. She will not do it. Not because she lacks compassion, but because she learned through brutal experience that trying to heal a man who has not committed to healing himself is a form of self-destruction. So she watches. And when she sees you operating from your wound rather than your wholeness, she creates distance. Most men interpret this as rejection. They call her cold, guarded, emotionally unavailable, impossible to please. What they are actually encountering is boundaries. Real boundaries. Not the performative kind that collapse under pressure, but the kind that come from a woman who finally learned that her energy is finite and sacred. Jung described this as the economy of libido, the wise distribution of your life force. She has learned to invest herself only where there is genuine reciprocity, where the exchange nourishes both people. She will not pour herself into dynamics that require her to shrink, pretend, or abandon her truth. And this is where you must be honest with yourself. Do you want a woman who maintains her integrity? Or do you want a woman who will sacrifice herself to make you comfortable? Because you cannot have both. The high-value woman offers you something most men are not prepared to receive. A mirror. When you arrive carrying your unresolved mother wounds, expecting her to validate you, soothe you, manage your emotions, she does not comply. She simply reflects back what you are actually doing. If you approach with aggression masters confidence, she remains calm and you must face your own violence. If you operate through manipulation, she responds with directness and you must confront your own dishonesty. If you mistake emotional need for desire, she maintains her wholeness and you must acknowledge your own emptiness. This is not cruelty. This is reality without the filter of feminine accommodation. And reality, when you have spent your life avoiding it, feels unbearable. Men who are still unconscious will lash out. They will call her heartless, impossible, incapable of love. They will tell themselves she is damaged or traumatized or afraid of real connection. Anything to avoid seeing what she is actually showing them. That they are not ready. That the work they need to do is terrifying. That they would rather blame her than face themselves. Men beginning to wake will feel the discomfort and sit with it. They will recognize the gift she is offering. The mirror that shows them exactly where their work lies. Not the mirror they want, which would reflect an idealized version of themselves. But the mirror they need. Most men choose comfort over growth. Most men leave. And she lets them go without chasing, without explaining endlessly, without trying to convince them of her worth. Because she understands that a man who cannot see her value is simply not at her level yet. And that is his journey, not her failure. Perhaps you have experienced this. Perhaps you have encountered a woman who seemed interested and then suddenly went cold. Who stopped responding to your texts. Who created distance you could not understand. You told yourself she was playing games. You convinced yourself she was broken. But what if she simply saw something in your behavior that you have not learned to see in yourself yet? What if her withdrawal was not rejection but discernment? What if she was protecting her energy from a dynamic that would have required her to betray herself? This is the question that separates boys from men. Can you sit with the possibility that her boundaries are valid? That her standards are not unreasonable? That perhaps you are not yet the man you need to become to meet her where she is? There exists a quality of presence she embodies that most men misinterpret entirely. She engages fully, listens deeply, offers genuine attention. But she does not merge. She does not dissolve her boundaries to create false intimacy. She does not lose herself to make you feel powerful. Jung distinguished between the ego, that constructed identity we present to the world, and the self, the deeper authentic center of our being. A woman who has individuated, who has done the work of becoming whole, no longer needs fusion with another person to feel complete. She can stand fully beside you without needing you to fill her inner void. This is mature love. Not the psychic entanglement most people mistake for connection. Not the codependent merging that feels like intensity but is actually mutual wounding. But if you have not done your own work, if you still seek in women the solution to your own incompleteness, her wholeness will feel like abandonment. You will want her to need you in ways that make you feel essential. You will want her to break open and expose her vulnerability so you can play savior. When she does not, when she remains sovereign even in intimacy, you will call it coldness. What you are actually feeling is the discomfort of your own fragmentation reflected back to you. She is not withholding love. She is offering it from a place of fullness rather than desperation. And if you were raised on women who loved from lack, who needed you to feel whole, who sacrificed themselves to prove their devotion, this will be disorienting. Everything in you will scream that something is wrong. That she is not giving enough. That real love should feel like drowning together. She is asking you to evolve past that. To meet her as an equal. To love from wholeness rather than wound. And most men cannot do it. Most men exit. They find someone easier, someone who will play the roles they understand, someone who will not challenge them to grow. And she lets them go. Not because she does not care. But because she will not collapse her center to accommodate a man's inability to hold his own. She will not abandon her truth to soothe his fear of inadequacy. She stands in her reality and extends an invitation. Meet me here or do not. If you can, if you have done enough work to show up whole, the relationship becomes genuinely sacred. If you cannot, she releases you with compassion and continues on her path. She does not exhaust herself trying to drag you across the threshold you are not ready to cross. Watch what happens when she senses misalignment. There is no dramatic confrontation. No endless processing. No desperate attempt to force compatibility. She simply creates space. Not to manipulate. Not to punish. But because her system can no longer tolerate the dissonance. Her body knows before her mind can articulate why. The energy feels wrong. Time with you leaves her depleted rather than nourished. The gap between who she is and who she must pretend to be around you grows unbearable. And so she moves. To you, this often appears sudden. You insist everything was fine. You demand to know what changed. What you fail to see are the thousand small moments she registered internally. The times you dismissed her feelings. The occasions you chose your comfort over her truth. The patterns you promised to change but never did. The ways you took her presence for granted. She did not leave suddenly. She left after patience was exhausted. After chances were given and wasted. After hope was honored and finally released. By the time she physically moves, the decision has been complete within her for longer than you realize. And here is what terrifies unconscious men. She does not perform grief the way you expect. She does not collapse into desperate longing. Does not obsessively question her choice. Does not leave doors open for your potential return. She grieves, yes. She feels the loss. But she does not confuse loss with mistake. She understands that releasing what no longer serves is an act of self-love, not cruelty. And she walks forward not because she is unfeeling but because she trusts her inner knowing more than she fears being alone. This is the freedom Jung described. To become so fully yourself that you no longer betray your truth for the illusion of belonging. To love with such depth that you release what cannot honor that love. To trust your own perception more than any external validation. Once she has touched this freedom, she cannot forget it. Once she has tasted it, everything else becomes intolerable. And you cannot negotiate with that. You cannot convince her to accept less. You can only become more. So how does she handle men? She does not handle them at all. She exists fully in her truth and allows them to choose whether they can rise to meet her there. She offers mirror, space, and absolute intolerance for sustained dissonance. She does not transform men. She reveals them. Her presence exposes where you actually are in your development, not where you claim to be or wish to be. And that exposure is often unbearable for men still committed to their own illusions. So they leave, calling her too demanding, too intense, too complicated. What they mean is, I am not yet ready for someone this real. Jung wrote about the sacred marriage, which he insisted was not the joining of two incomplete halves but the conscious choice of two already whole beings to walk together. The high-value woman embodies this understanding. She is not waiting to be completed by a man. She is not searching for someone to repair her, rescue her, or validate her worth. She has done that work herself. She is whole. And from that wholeness, she invites connection, not dependency. Partnership, not fusion. If you arrive fragmented, demanding that she fill your internal void, she will sense it immediately. And she will decline. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Men who are ready will experience her boundaries as invitations to their own expansion. They will feel the discomfort of her mirror and choose to look deeper rather than look away. They will witness her refusal to diminish herself and feel inspired to claim their own fullness. These men become true partners. Equals. They do not fear her power because they are cultivating their own. The relationship becomes a meeting of two sovereign beings, each complete, choosing to share the journey rather than clinging together out of fear. But men who remain unconscious will experience her presence as existential threat. They will attempt to diminish her to restore their sense of control. They will call her selfish for maintaining boundaries, cold for refusing to carry their emotional weight, arrogant for knowing her value. And she will allow them their interpretation. Not because their words do not sting, but because she understands their judgment reveals their own unhealed wounds, not her deficiency. She does not absorb their projections. She sees them clearly for what they are. Defense mechanisms against growth. You know whether you are ready for this woman. You know whether her boundaries feel like invitation or threat. You know whether her wholeness inspires you or intimidates you. You know whether you can meet her as an equal or whether you need her to be less so you can feel like more. This is not a comfortable question. But it is the only question that matters. The ultimate truth is this. She does not do anything to men. She simply exists in her authentic frequency and reality organizes itself accordingly. Men who are prepared rise to meet her. Men who are not naturally fall away. And she has learned that managing this process is not her responsibility. Her only task is remaining true to herself. The connections meant for her will arrive not because she performed or pursued or convinced, but because she stood still in her own light and allowed resonance to operate. Jung believed the ultimate act of love is to individuate fully, to become so whole that you need no one to complete you, and then to choose relationship from that place of fullness rather than lack. This is what she embodies. Not a rejection of masculine energy but a refusal to lose herself in it. Not a fear of intimacy but an insistence on intimacy that is authentic, reciprocal, rooted in mutual wholeness rather than mutual wounding. She is not waiting for rescue. She has rescued herself. And now she walks, vibrating at a frequency that calls forward only those willing to meet her in that elevated space. If these words disturb you, if you feel resistance or anger, pay attention to that. It is information. It is showing you where your work lies. If these words inspire you, if you feel called to become the kind of man who can meet this kind of woman, then you have found your path. The work is difficult. The rewards are sacred. The question is not whether you want her. The question is whether you are willing to become worthy of her. Whether you will do the shadow work required. Whether you will face your own wounds instead of expecting her to heal them. Whether you will build your own wholeness instead of seeking completion in her. She is waiting. Not for you specifically, but for a man who has done what she has done. Who has walked through fire and emerged holding nothing but his essential truth. Who can stand beside her without needing to diminish her. Who can love her without needing to possess her. Become that man. Not for her. For yourself. And when you do, you will find that women like her are no longer impossible. They are inevitable. Subscribe if you are ready to do this work. Comment below with the word worthy if something in this resonated. The path is clear. The only question is whether you will walk it.